Hello everybody, welcome to you. I have seen this video and I want to thank this girl for her video. She talked about tourism in Egypt and how she enjoyed her tour and how cost the tour in Egypt. It's cheap and the food in restaurants also cheap. People are welcomed here. And she also said the Syrian restaurants in Egypt more expensive than Egyptian restaurants. And I want to tell you that Egypt not only cheap in tourism and good place to visit, it's also most secured place in the world you can visit. And welcome to you all in Egypt.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So as you might know, for the past 2 months I have been solo traveling all around Egypt and just basically having the most epic, amazing time there. So today I wanted to make a video kind of about the costs of traveling Egypt. Just for reference, right now, as of the time of filming this video, the exchange rate between the US dollar and the Egyptian pound is this right here. The first price that you're probably going to look into is the cost of accommodation in Egypt. And obviously, depending on where you want to stay, ranges for hotel prices can be pretty wide. They can be super cheap or super expensive depending on what you're going to book. So in this video, I am going to be talking about what I personally spent and kind of going mostly off of that. To give you the average cost of a hotel per night in Egypt is pretty easy because pretty much everywhere I went, I spent about $10 a night on hotels. And you know, sometimes they would be a little bit more or sometimes a little bit less, but we're still talking about the $8 to $12 range per night. So $10 a night was pretty much the staple I found. I don't stay in 5-star luxury resorts, so that's not what we're talking about here. But then again, I'm not just trying to stay at the cheapest place possible that's, you know, like falling apart on my head or something. No, these were all very nice, comfortable places. For $10 a night, what I would get was a room to myself, so a private room, and it would have a shared bathroom, shared kitchen. And also, while I'm on the topic of hotels, I want to tell you just a little bit about my 2 favorite hotels in Egypt. I am not sponsored by these places. I genuinely just stayed there and absolutely loved them. They're 2 of my favorite places in the whole world probably to stay, so I figured I would tell you guys. One of them would be Bob Marley House in Luxor. It is just this super artistic place. It's almost like a quirky little museum inside. All this art covering all of the walls, a lot of decorations centered around Bob Marley for some reason. They have a big fluffy white cat that'll just come and sit on you, and the people there are so nice. Really great. I loved it there. $10 a night. And then my number 1 favorite hotel, actually this is definitely one of the best places that I have ever stayed in my life, would be Pyramids Loft in Giza. It has this beautiful view overlooking the pyramids, so I would wake up and just come onto the rooftop, which is also beautifully decorated with art. It's just this amazingly epic view of the pyramids. The rooftop is amazing, and at night everybody just comes up there and watches the light show of the pyramids and talks and hangs out. I cannot say enough good things about this place. Again, not sponsored. I just love that place so much. So the first cost that you're actually going to have in Egypt itself is going to be the price of your visa. And as an American citizen, I myself paid $25 for a visa on arrival. Visa on arrival means you don't have to worry about sending in any sort of forms or filling out anything online. Just don't worry about it. Just take your flight. As soon as you land, you're gonna have to go to a little window, and then you get the stamp in your passport for your visa. It's pretty much just like any other immigration area where you have to get a stamp, just one little extra step. However, I will say that it is very strange, but they really want you to have US dollars for that visa fee when you enter the airport. So if you're coming with other types of currencies other than dollars or euros, you're out of luck. which is what happened to me because I had Chinese currency. It was coming from China. But I took out Egyptian currency, Egyptian pounds, from the ATM, and the crazy thing was that they wouldn't even accept that. So even if you're coming into the country already having traded your cash into Egyptian currency, they're not going to take it. They actually told me that I needed to give them US dollars for my visa, and I said, well, I don't have US dollars, can I please give you the currency of your own country? No, they could not do it. Just make things a lot easier for yourself and have things in US dollars or euros already prepared. Okay, so of course, when you go to Egypt, you are going to want to go to all of these amazing sites and things to do. There's the pyramids, there's temples, there's all sorts of adventures that you can have. And how much are those going to cost? Well, of course, it's not a one number answer because there's so many different things. But in general, if you're going into temples or monuments or things like that, any sort of historical site, pyramids, then in general the tickets are going to be 50 to 100 Egyptian pounds. I will put the dollars here. Besides going to all of these historic sites, which are amazing and some of the best that I have ever seen anywhere in the world, besides that though, there are a ton of adventures to do in Egypt. Just every day is going to be epic, and yeah, at least for me, that's what I felt like it was. Just all of these adventures always happening. Most of the tours and things that you can go on, excursions, expeditions, adventures, explorations, are going to be pretty affordable. I'll just give you some examples that I personally spent, and you can kind of figure out what things are going to cost from there. So for example, when I went on an outing to the Blue Hole snorkeling, it was a few hours worth of snorkeling, and that was only $5, so that was awesome. That was probably one of the cheaper things that I did. One of the more expensive things that I did would be that I went on an overnight trip to the White Desert, and that was actually $100, but when you factor in everything, it's 2 days. You camp overnight, they get you all of the camping gear, they give you lunch, dinner in the desert, breakfast, and lunch again the next day. So 4 really, really nice meals. You have a guide, you have a driver, and you're going sand bashing in this really cool safari type of car. For all of that, I think that the price is really fair. When you are going on all of these adventures in Egypt, a lot of the time you are going to want to have a guide. I did a lot of both. I did a lot of just going on my own and seeing things without a guide, and I also did quite a lot of going with a guide. It is just going to make things a lot easier in especially these super touristy sites where everybody is trying to haggle you and ask you if you want to ride a camel or buy their water bottles every 2 seconds, and if you have a guide with you, then they're not going to bother you. And also, these guides know the stories of the place. For example, going into the museum, I would not recommend going without a guide because there's not really any sort of signs and explanations on anything, so you're just walking through kind of this treasure trove of stories and history, and you're not going to be able to see any of them. Of course, if you're getting a guide, then you do have to pay for their time. I know that, for example, if you want a tour of the pyramids with a professional guide, then it costs you $30, and that's the price including the guide, the tour of the pyramids, a camel ride for like an hour, and the entrance ticket. Here's another example. When I went on a desert safari car through the Sahara Desert, it was 700 Egyptian. That included a couple hours of driving and adventuring in the desert. Hopefully me giving you kind of this assortment of prices of what I paid for tours will help you in kind of ascertaining what tours are going to cost. Another cost you're going to have in Egypt that you might be wondering about is the price of food. Well, to put it simply, the price of food in Egypt is just cheap. I'd say that on average you could sit down at a restaurant and pay maybe 30 to 50 pounds for a meal. Probably that's generally what I paid, maybe like 25, 30, 40. That's for sitting down at just a normal restaurant in not the most touristy area, so super touristy areas are going to be higher in price. Or if the restaurant is really nice and more catered to tourists and foreigners, then it will be a little bit more expensive. But if you are paying at a normal restaurant anyway, not like an expensive restaurant. If you're paying more than 100 or 150 for your meal, then something's it's expensive. There was this awesome place in Giza that sold falafel sandwiches, which, by the way, you have to try them. They are the best. They sold falafel sandwiches for 2 Egyptian pounds, and that is like 10 cents. It's literally 11 cents. So that's how cheap things can be. It is definitely pretty easy to find meals for under $1. And then while you're in Egypt, you are going to want to know how to get around. I would recommend that whenever you can, you take an Uber instead of a taxi. Not only are they cheaper, but I just feel like they're more reliable and safe. I was in Egypt for a while, so I kind of know about all of the scams that the taxi driver guys have, and that they will try and like throw in their little tricks on you to get you to pay more money. And they have a lot of them. For an hour's drive, I would pay about 50 to 75 Egyptian, and then I would normally give the driver a little tip as well, but 50 pounds for an hour drive is obviously very cheap. So that can kind of give you a reference for the prices of taxis and everything. If you're looking to just go a short way, then you can always use tuk-tuks too. I absolutely love taking tuk-tuks. I get so excited when I find countries that they have them, because I just always seem to have the most fun, amazing time driving in tuk-tuks. They are awesome. If you haven't taken one, I really recommend you try it, just for a little 5-minute quick trip across the town maybe. They're super cheap. I actually sadly cannot even remember how much they were, but generally I would just take maybe like 5-minute rides or 10-minute rides, and I remember that it was so cheap that I would count it as basically being free. So I don't know, maybe it's 10 pounds or something like that. But then aside from just getting around town or to the other side of the city, if you're in Egypt, you are going to want to go to other cities and areas as well. Or at least I hope you do. So for me, there were I never took any flights. I know people that did, but I just always preferred to take trains or buses, because I actually love long train rides and seeing the countryside go by out the window. So I never took flights within Egypt. But I know that a lot of people take the flight from Cairo to Luxor, and I do know the price quite well because so many of my friends did it. It's gonna be around $50 to $100, so maybe $75. So if you don't have as much time and you want to take a flight, then that's a good one to take, because it gets you kind of down south, and maybe from Luxor you can take a train to Aswan or something like that. While I was in Egypt, I took a ton of buses and trains. I took night trains, I took overnight buses, I took short buses, I took long trains. They are actually pretty good. They're generally pretty clean and comfortable. Sometimes they do have a bit of a problem with being completely on time, so maybe if you have something booked like right after your train gets in, then be aware of that there might be a little bit of a delay. Buses are cheaper than trains, but trains are still super affordable. So I took a really long trip all the way from Cairo to Aswan. That is a really long train ride, maybe like 12 hours, and it was 235 Egyptian pounds. That's for a first class ticket as well. If you want to compare the prices of a journey on a bus that's a similar length, I paid 150 for a bus trip that was about the same distance. Another thing that you could do if you have time is to take a felucca cruise on the Nile. I didn't do a more long-term one, but I really wish that I had when I was in Egypt. I kind of forgot about it. I don't even know how I ended up missing out on this, but please go do it. Tell me how it is. I don't have a price to tell you, unfortunately, because I didn't do this myself. So just go and do some research and be aware that that is another way for you to get to your next destination in Egypt. Another thing to keep in mind is that Egypt is a country where you're going to be expected to tip for a lot of things. So how much should you be tipping? Well, besides it obviously depending on the cost of what you've just spent or done, normally I would tip people about 50 pounds. Sometimes I would tip them 25. Sometimes I would tip them more than 50, but to tip anyone, $100 bill would be probably, for anything that I can think of anyway, a very, 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 very generous tip. So 50 is good. It's already a good tip for you to give somebody 50 in most cases. It is considered just polite and respectful to give them a little something for their time, which I think is completely fair. Well guys, that is it for the cost of traveling Egypt. If I missed anything, then just let me know down in the comments, or if you have a specific question for me, then just ask me in the comments. I will try and answer all of you guys as best as I can. And yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you enjoy your trip to Egypt. It is amazing there. I am so excited for you. Thanks for watching. See you next time in Egypt. Bye!
Yes, everybody, as you hear now, Egypt is a good place you can visit. Egypt is a place of enjoyment. You can come to Egypt and enjoy. People are welcome to any stranger. People are helpful. People are enjoy with the other people. They feel happy when they help people. You can come Egypt to enjoy, and I advise you to visit some cities like Cairo. Cairo is a capital. Cairo, you can go. I can't say theater or cinema because it's in Arabic only. Some people don't know Arabic, but you can take a tour in Nile. There is ship have meal and ship have no meal. It's a good tour. You can go pyramids. Pyramids is near of Cairo. You can visit a good places like Egyptian Museum. Egyptian Museum is very good place in Egypt. You can visit other cities like Luxor. Luxor is amazing city. Everyone want to visit Luxor. You can visit Aswan. Oh, Aswan, very nice and very nice people in Aswan. Aswan is the last city in Egypt. It's a bordering with Sudan. Last city in Egypt. It's very good place. You can feel the natural of River Nile. You can feel anything natural there. You can find other city like Hurghada on the beach or Red Sea. Hurghada and Sharm el-Sheikh. You can spend a nice time there. You can in Hurghada you have a lot of ships. Maybe 3 floors. Yeah, 3 floors on the water, under the sea. 3 floors. You will go to ship and go under the sea, and you watch everything around you under the sea in Hurghada and Sharm el-Sheikh. This is a good place. You can take meal in this ship in the sea. Okay. You can visit Alexandria. Alexandria is what can I say? Alexandria for all the centuries, this city was a source of knowledge for all countries around Egypt. Alexandria, first city in the world have knowledge. For that, this is a good place, very good place to visit. But Alexandria, if you want to visit, I advise to visit in summer, because in winter you'll find a lot of rain. Maybe you find water in the street like that. I think it will not be good for you. But in summer, it's a really amazing place. You can go see, you can go surroundings, streets, shopping, everything is good in Alexandria. Okay, a lot of love from me, and welcome to you in Egypt.